And welcome back to Ronin's Den. We have myself, GM Duality Complex, and the Dragon tonight. We're going to be doing our breakdown from our one-shot event from The Crypt Has Opened that the Dragon so graciously performed as the Crypt Keeper for. And I think we both have some opinions on the game now. We got a chance to play it together and with a couple other people. So what were your first impressions and lasting ones, Dragon?
Well, I've played the game before, and I've raved about this game. I raved about it when Jeffrey was on when we did the interview, and I'll rave about it again. But being able to be the Crypt Keeper kind of opened up some more information for me. Being a Crypt Keeper for that game is insanely easy. Like, it is so smooth, and you just let the players do their thing. You put like a base idea of a story, pretty much through you guys creating the town, creating the NPCs. I was able to adjust the story I had, left us on kind of a cliffhanger if we ever wanted to pick it up as a game. The rules for creating cryptids is insanely easy. I did next to no prep for that, and we ran, and I think everyone had a good time. So I think from a game master standpoint, the Crypt Keeper, it is so easy. I feel like this game could be an excellent throw in between a bigger game. So like, say we were doing a Legends of Kralis thing for weekly. When we get like, okay, let's try something else, we could throw the Crypt in once a month, and it would not feel unnatural because of how easy it is to pick up the characters, how easy it is for the Crypt Keeper to write something, and you're gonna have a fun time. So you could mix this in as a throw-in. You could run this weekly and have a great time. I can't stop raving about this game. I'm struggling to find a negative. I might find one by the end of this video, but I'm struggling to find a negative.
Yeah.
Oh no, only negative. It's not out yet, like officially. It's still in playtest. It needs to be released with a book full of cryptids.
Yes. It's definitely something I do want to add to my bookshelf as a physical copy when it does become available. On the player side of things, it was pretty smooth. What I do with these one shots is I try to read just enough of the rules to get the idea of how to play, and then I want to learn to play while playing, because that's really where I get the most learning while playing games. Pretty smooth. It's a very narrative game, so if you're looking for more of a traditional like dungeon crawl, loot collection, character building type thing, I'd say probably not for you there. But as far as a really good sit around the table and do a narrative story driven game, perfect. It's awesome if you're into the magic and the cryptid side of things.
Yeah, 100%. It is definitely not a trad game. You are not going to be delving through dungeons, counting your gold, exploring, any of that. And I think the feel that Jeffrey has tried to put into it, When Suddenly Games, the idea of the logo for When Suddenly being a campfire and just telling stories around a campfire, this game has absolutely made that feeling is very present. And as the Crypt Keeper, I felt that, like, when we were naming NPCs and Freedom named the sheriff, and I said, well, you named him, you're describing him.
Yeah.
I threw it to him, and it didn't feel out of place. And it felt like that was the natural progression for this game, because we built the town together. We built the NPCs together. You named him. Obviously, you have an idea for him. Let me hear it. And that's what it is. It's now canon. And I like that. That feeling of camaraderie and companionship and being able to tell a story where I start it, I pass it to you. When suddenly it goes to him, when suddenly there, and then it gets back to me. And everything that I thought is completely changed, but it works. It's fantastic.
Yeah. The only thing that, for me that was a little off, because it's just, like, I come from a lot of traditional games, right? So that's the style I'm used to, and it's how I play. This game did throw kind of a monkey wrench / challenge at me to stop playing that way and start going in a different direction. And that direction was looking for failure in order to gain experience, aside from playing the character the most optimal way and, barreling through things and getting experience that way. That was a bit of a challenge for me. But I like it, right? Like, it's going to encourage me. I made a death mage, a hexmonger, and I specialized in death magic. Make things go boom. And by playing it to those strengths, I was able to do some pretty cool things throughout the game, but I didn't gain much experience. However, I believe Jeffrey was going outside the norm for their character build, and it was just experience point, experience point, experience point. Like, it was just raining in for them.
Well, and I like the fact that failure gets you experience.
Mm-hmm.
It forces you to, okay, my character is a one-trick pony and really good at this. I can continue to be this this stagnant, I just do this, or I can try something out of the box. And I really enjoyed that we had Jeffrey, who was the creator of the game, in there to kind of show that, because I think reading the system, it's there, you can see it, but watching someone really be like, okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, I have a D4 in that and no aptitude with a spell die of a 6. The imposition is a D10. Huh. Well, that's a total failure. And I like that there's the partial failure, the total failure, and then the success. Because the total failure, in the sense where, like, he was trying to cloak all of you guys and make you invisible to the enemies, he actually failed. And the Crypt Keeper, me, said, you know what? You're going to get exactly what you want. You're invisible. And no one can see or hear you. But you can't see or hear each other either.
Yep.
But I didn't add the part that only applied to the 4 of you. The cryptids and the cultists could still see you. So you got exactly what you wanted, but it's not right.
Yep.
So I like that a lot, but I think one of the things about the system that is going to be hard for people to grasp is the fact that you can do anything, right? So, like, the owl demon takes off into the sky. Changeling goes, I want to take away its wings. Okay, explain that to, like, how? Explain that. What do you mean by that? What are you gonna do? Like, what? Explain it. Sell it to me. And I think that's another thing is the Crypt Keeper. One Crypt Keeper, me, I'm gonna look at the players and say, sell this to me. Make me understand how you're going to use your abilities to make that work. Where another Crypt Keeper might say, okay, you can't do that, but you can do this using this.
Yeah.
So you can get different styles of crypt keeping as well. And I think a good game should allow for different styles of play and different styles of player and game master.
Oh, absolutely. A suggestion I might make would be to put maybe just an example of some spells in at the power levels. Because one of the issues I had when playing was like, all right, I want to do a lightning bolt. Well, I'm just going to use my death magic to do that. All right, well, what's the power of this lightning bolt? What is its capabilities? It's just, again, coming from a traditional game to something like this, it's a challenge, right? But I loved it because it's like, all right, well, I'm not locked into, say, just one type of explosive damage. I could use lightning, I use fire, I could use just concussive force. I like the enchantments for being able to enchant your clothes. Like, what was the changeling? Is like, I'm going to enchant my cigarettes so I can see the invisible through my smoke. And I was like, that's interesting. And I never would have thought of it.
Well, I think the only limitations to it reminds me of like the Green Lantern ring from DC. The only limitation is your own imagination. So the more outside of the box you can think, the
better you are.
more you're going to be able to interact with this game. Because literally, and I love the different types of magic. I feel like you can literally do anything with these different magic schools or no
Pats.
aspects. I think they're called aspects. You can do anything with them, and I enjoy that because if you get someone who's creative like Changeling in the group, he can start to do those things, and then someone like you who's a little more traditional can look at it and be like, oh. Oh. So it I feel like it's going to be a game that the traditional people are going to struggle with at first. But if you can get one or two players that are just that outside of the box. Like I always harken back to when I was as a player and I wanted to banish a person into the cryptid realm. Nobody had ever thought of that before. So I rolled to see if I could do it, failed miserably, but that's beside the point. But failure in this can be so much fun, and it's not just a net negative. And I've always been a big pusher for make failure interesting outside of the role play, right? So failure, I get an experience, and we can make something really cool story-wise happen. It's not just, oh, I swing my sword and I missed. Oh, I have 3 attacks. I missed every attack. I'm stuck here. Okay, next person. Back to my phone.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing I like. There wasn't any. I didn't get bored. You know, when I play D&D, I get bored in between my turn during combat often, and it's no fault of the game master. I mean, they can do an amazing job describing what's going on. But in this game, there wasn't a level of boredom ever reached. Like, I was always fully invested, fully paying attention to what everybody was doing, because what they were doing was interesting when they were being successful. But even their failures, you know, like you said, it's not just I swing the sword and miss. Okay, you want to be invisible. You're invisible to each other, but not to anything else. That's interesting. Much more so than, oh, you go to cast a spell, they fail their DC for resist. Meh. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing with like failure, like when Freedom tried to remove all the fog, and he failed, but I made it so that the fog disappeared, but the thing that was in the fog being covered gets an attack on him. Like, it hits him. There's so many little things you can do, and I like the fact, like you said, combat never felt boring, because it's not really, there's no set mechanic, right? You're not whittling someone's hit points down. You're not trying to beat an armor class. You're not trying to utilize all your bonus actions and secret actions and oh, guess what? I can do this too. Now I got to roll on my dice and add all this shit together and oh, this effect is going to do this and that. No, it's just
Well, can you explain that? Because I know that's probably going to be a question people have. You're not whittling down hit points. So how are you determining, how is it determined when an enemy has been dispatched? Like, what's the win condition?
So it's not really clear. At least I don't think it's very clearly defined in the book how that works. But there is the threat level of cryptid, right? So the one that's example in the book you can download is the Ozark Howler. Its threat level is a D12, meaning it is one of the most dangerous cryptids you can encounter. So for me, the cultist that I used was a D4. One hit, he was done. The owl demon had a D10 threat, but he's also a demon. So I kind of thought about like, what is a demon? What is a way you can get rid of him? Well, you can banish him. You can try to outmuscle him. It's going to be harder to outmuscle him. But Freedom saying like, hey, I'm going to use a ritual to banish him back to hell. Done. Like, it leaves it very open for you as the Crypt Keeper to decide how long, right? So if I have a really powerful enemy or a really powerful cryptid, it's going to go a little longer. And then someone like the Shadow Owl, you hit him once or twice, he's going to back away and go somewhere else and come back to haunt you later. So I don't know. Jeffrey's typing, so I'm sure he's going to correct me here, but we'll see what that is. But yeah, I kind of played it by ear that way. So a D4 is really weak. A D12 is the strongest it gets. So I just kind of like gauged it based on the fun. I don't want it to go too long, but I don't want it to be too short. Kind of that, get a feeling for your group. If it seems like they've hit it a bunch of times, maybe it's time to end it.
Okay.
So, but.
Okay, what do we got from Mr. Baker?
Oh, he said a cryptid's die level determines how many hits it can take. Okay, so I was right in my kind of assumption. I respect him for saying that, but I feel like certain cryptids, like a demon, is going to be a little beefier than their level die, because, like I said, you've got to either banish them back to hell. They might have a specific weakness. I don't think that's in the rules, but that was my interpretation of the Crypt Keeper, and I'm going to keep my interpretation because it's more fun and cool. I think you did it right. Okay, I have the
Awesome.
creator's approval for what I said. I guess I'm going to ask you, Duality, because I have gone on record as saying I think the dice mechanic, the Imposition dice system, is going to be the next Forged in the Dark, the Powered by the Apocalypse die system. Like, it's going to be the next one that's copied. How did you feel about the die system?
I really liked the die system. So like I said, I try to read just enough of the rules before I play to have a general grasp, and then I like to pick the rest of it up and play. And there wasn't really a need to explain beyond which dice are being rolled for me to get into it and understand it. And since it's so easy to use, and it can be applied through so many different genres just with the storytelling, I fully agree. I think this is going to be the next Powered by the Apocalypse. I don't know enough Forged in the Dark, Blades in the Dark for the comparison. But this is going to be really big with the non-traditional narrative preferenced game players.
I've said it every time we talk about this game. I say it, and if Jeffrey ever goes to a publisher or anything and wants to sell them, take this video. I will look dead in the camera. This is the next Powered by the Apocalypse. Jeffrey has done an amazing job. This die system is amazing. It's the next Powered by the Apocalypse. Get into it. Pick it up. You'd be foolish not to.
Get in early. Get in on the ground level, because this is... it's so buttery smooth. And that's the thing. Like, I don't want to over-explain it or get in this long, drawn-out thing about it. It's just... it's so quick, simple, smooth, and the player's in control of all of the rolling. I was watching your job as the Crypt Keeper when it came to dice management. I don't think you touched dice once.
I don't. The Crypt Keeper never rolls any dice. Halt for a second. Freedom! Welcome to the podcast. We've been talking. It's all good. So we're talking about the Crypt. Obviously, you knew about that. Jeffrey's in the chat watching. So I'm just gonna start hitting you with some questions. So we played last week. Give me your brief overview of the game if someone were to ask you about the Crypt is Open and your thoughts.
Well, I mean, the magic system's fantastic. The way it works is great. It's about as free form as you can get. You can really do almost anything that you want to do. You can play any type of character you really want to, and not be forced into any one thing, even between like the tropes and the traditions.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite thing about the game, and what was your did you have anything that you didn't like, thought could be a little different?
As far as like critique goes, like I have to kind of like echo what I walked in on you guys saying. It's just smooth. You know, the Crypt Keeper controls everything that you can do. If you can justify that you're able to do it, you can give it a shot. So I mean, it's I think it's a great game. I think it's going to be one of the next big games for sure.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about the dice mechanic?
The dice mechanics were awesome. Like, I thought that was really good. I mean, I really liked the idea of partial successes, failures, complete successes, and astronomical successes and failures, or catastrophic failures and astronomical successes. It's awesome.
And the imposition mechanic?
I think that was great, because that's such a good way to set difficulty and still have a chance. Even like, no matter how high that imposition is, it could roll low. You might luck out, just like in real life. You might luck out.
I definitely agree. So one of the things I want to talk about, because it's been something that Jeffrey, since the creation of the game, has had a lot of issues with, trying to find the right way to do it, are mundane skills. Anything that isn't magical. It seems like every rendition, there's been complaints, there's been things that just don't work with it. So how did you guys like the current mundane skill system? Because I personally thought this is the best version of it. So what are your thoughts?
Freedom, go first.
Oh, I mean, I didn't have any experience with previous iterations of it, but I thought it worked out pretty well, especially like in the challenges that we did like against each other. I thought it worked out really awesome. And even when we did the mundane checks for like the social checks against like the people in the council meeting, I thought that worked out pretty smooth. It was still smooth, and it was still really easy to deal with, as far as like figuring out the difficulty and actually getting the roll done. So you don't have to be like a rules lawyer and a mathematician to get checks done in this game, which I think is great.
All right, duality.
So when I first saw the character sheet, I kind of got this World of Darkness vibe. And then, you know, like with all the dots, and you figure out what your skill levels are and all of that. Now, the fact that your mundane skills, there's no list of them. Like, there's no master list in the book for this weapon skill, these stealth skills, these whatever mundane physical skills. I like that. At this point, I think we all know what sneak is and what sneak does, and, you know, what a weapon proficiency is and what it does. And having just a bank of points that you could just name your skills. You just pick the ones that you want out of the ether, so to speak. I want my character to be good at bluffing, hiding stuff, and I don't know, baking, and driving a car. You could just put all of those skills on your sheet, and you don't have to look at a list of prerequisites. Oh, in order to get the skill, I got to take a rank in this one and 3 of these skills. It's just a really simple, pick what you want your character to do and what you think they'd be good at. And from what I understood with it too, it's like, this just isn't the only things my character has skills in. But these are the things that my character is exceptionally skilled at. Because just like the magic, you can try things that you don't have on your skill sheet. And if you had a character sheet that had every skill possible on it, this thing would be 4 pages long. This thing could be folded up to the size of an index card right now and carried with you from table to table. And I love it. So, open-ended, pick what you want and what you need, put your skill points where you want them. It's perfect. More games should, if they can, and it's going to be more the narrative side, mimic this.
I definitely agree. I think as a person who had the previous ones, so the previous editions of the game, the thought is we want people to use the magic. The game is really about the magic. So the mundane skills were kind of an afterthought because, like, do we even need them because we're using magic? So at one point they weren't even there, and then it's like, okay, well, this is definitely a time this must be necessary. Then it was like, okay, you get so many D6s, but you don't have a human die or a spell die. You just roll that die versus the imposition, or I think it was something like that. I can't remember the details, but every rendition of it had left me feeling like I don't like this. There's got to be a better way. And I sat and tried to come up with my own way, and I could not think of anything. And I feel like this human die, there's mental, social, physical, and you pick whatever you want. Like you said, it's open-ended. Pick whatever you feel like. And even if you want to do something that's not one of your special skills, you can still do it. So this is definitely the best edition of mundane skills, and I hope it stays this way because it's approved by Ronin's Den, apparently.
Yeah, no, it's... You can thank Penny for this current, and then it cuts off on my screen.
Yeah, current iteration. Yeah, Penny is, I think, as hyped up about this game as I am, so Penny has given a lot of her thoughts, and it's been very helpful. So, but anyway, I guess the final thing I want to ask really is the experience point system. Mm-hmm. You guys, did you understand it? Did you like it? Was there any tweaks there? Because I've found that I really enjoy it.
So, it's an easy to understand system. Like, mechanically, I understand it. I get it. It's not personally my favorite type of experience point system because it functions like exclusively out of failure, right? So it's going to lead to some pretty goofy things at the table where people might intentionally not go for a solution that would fix whatever it is they're facing, to be more in favor of doing some zany, off the wall, like, I don't have any skill in this, but I'm going to try it anyway because I'm 2 experience points away from leveling up scenarios. But, I mean, that's more like a table etiquette thing, if anything. And it's, again, traditional gamer versus narrative system. This is a narrative system, though, that I like, enjoy, and want to play. And I've played a few narrative systems before, and they don't generally... We don't generally mesh very well. Like I don't have a good time with narrative base most of the time, but this one I really got into. So,
yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I kind of agree that it's a little, coming from like more traditional tabletop games. It's a little weird, like not tallying off a bunch of experience at the end of a game. But it's also... Yeah.
Go ahead, finish. I'll say what I'm doing after.
Yeah, but it's also like kind of cool that your character learns through failure.
Exactly.
You know?
So I do think there is end of session experience, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure at the end of the session you can gain experience. I'm not 100% sure on that. But if there's not, you probably could easily do that. Hey, did we... Oh, that is a plan. Yes, okay. Like, could be like just ask several questions. Hey, did we defeat a cryptid? Mark 1 experience. Or maybe it's 5 questions, and if you get 2 of them, you get 1 experience point. If you get 4 of them, you get 2. If you get all 5, you get 3 experience points. It could be something that, like, going in, okay, let's try to shoot for all these. So, and everybody gets it. So it might be less likely for people to try to do those silly things to gain experience. But I also think that we talked about it at the end of the game last week. I was ruling that if you met your imposition, you succeeded. Jeffrey said that when he runs it, if you meet it, it's still a failure. And there were a lot of times you guys met the imposition. So I feel like even when you're doing your normal stuff, if you play that way, you're going to gain a lot more experience. And maybe that's something he needs to put in the text as like optional rule. Meet does not beat. And it's a way to get more experience quicker without doing that. It's something very simple like that. But I also think that's could be just like, hey, do you want your game to be a little bit harder? Do this. So it could add like a difficulty level to the game.
Yep. Different ways to rule the rollings for more cinematic, more gritty gameplay. Couple different options there with how you determine if you meet or beat the imposition for how that's going to land for you.
But anyway, honestly, I don't think I have much more to say. Is there anything you guys want to say real quick before we go to our closing statements?
I mean, no. I'm ready to go to my closing statements. What about for you, Freedom?
I'm good. Kevin.
All right, Freedom, give us your closing thoughts about the Crypt and what you would tell anybody who asks you about it.
I would tell them play it for sure. It's a fun game to run. You can run just like how you ran it. It's so freeform, open ended. The setting is great because it all revolves around the town, and it's so cool to have all the player input on what your actual town is. And it's the narrative's player driven and Crypt Keeper driven. It's fun. I thought it was a really enjoyable game. I can't wait to eventually play it again.
Duality?
You know, as somebody who plays a lot of mainly traditional style tabletop loot and dungeon delving games, this was a nice breath of fresh air. And it was a narrative experience that still had a decent amount of that traditional but open form magic casting that I look for. Like I was saying before we played, I'd really like to play Mage the Ascension again, but I don't feel like digging out my calculus books. And this game scratched that itch for spell crafting and casting so nicely. The dice system is very easy to pick up and learn, with the imposition die rolling as basically a randomized difficulty level setter. Like Freedom was saying earlier, yeah, it's a D12, but you still have a chance to succeed even if all you have is a D4. The die roll could be in your favor. It's not a hard limit that you need to exceed no matter what. So I would definitely say it's 100% worth a pickup, 100% worth playing. Definitely something I could see myself playing around the kitchen table with some beer and pretzels on a Friday night when we don't got a lot of else going on and people are finally able to play TTRPGs around my house again. But love it. Can't wait to play more of it. It's definitely going in the rotation of games that I'm going to be playing on the weekends.
All right. Everybody knows how I feel about this game.
Yep.
I hype it all the time. go to my TikTok, you'll see a bunch of videos about it. You'll see every time Jeffrey makes a video about it, I hype it up. This game is amazing. It's simple. It's fun. The dice system is revolutionary. You will never, in my opinion, have a bad time unless you get some really shitty players.
Yeah.
I think you could have fun with this game even with some meh players, because it's smooth, it's fun, and you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
And that's my thoughts. Go play this game. Go help Jeffrey get this thing funded, supported, hype it up, and I hope a really cool publisher picks it up and makes it a household name, similar to Powered by the Apocalypse, because it is that good.
Absolutely. Well, this has been our follow-up episode from the one-shot event for the Crypt is Opened over here on Ronin's Den. Thank you, Freedom Cobra, for joining us. Thank you, Dragon, as always, for being the awesome co-host you are. And thank you, Jeffrey, for stopping by and hanging out in the audience tonight. Have a wonderful night, and we'll catch you next week with another episode.